And then I talked to Georgia and I was like, dude, you just fucking manifested this house for me. Like, how the hell?
That's where we're shooting the podcast right now.
Yeah,
That's
in
the
the
room
house.
to shoot. Yeah,
because I needed a podcast room.
Yeah.
The circle was like, I got you.
We got you. We like this idea. We like this girl and her ideas about the podcast. We're going to do a little extra real estate assistant help on this one.
So, and then Georgia was like, yeah, they can like pierce the matrix like that.
Well, that's the real bend the matrix work. So when we have limiting beliefs or limiting frameworks, we literally can't perceive things existing for us or being even a potential, and we just don't believe it's possible. And once you dissolve that framework that was keeping that at bay, things will just pop through. They'll pop through the matrix.
Welcome to Spread Your Third Eye podcast. I am your host, Mia Wrights, and we are here to spread that third eye wide open and take you beyond the veils into other dimensions with our girl, Georgia Jean.
Hello.
Oh, I forgot your name for a minute. Just kidding.
Georgia Jean. Well, it's easy. It's out there in some other illusion of time and space and probably called something different. People call me Gloria all the time. That's my most miscalled name. Ever since I was like a little girl, people would call me Gloria. So I feel, and it's got a G, an O, and R-I-A.
Georgia and Gloria, I guess.
Gloria.
People would call me Maya a lot as a kid.
Oh, Maya. Yeah. That's still similar spelling though.
Yeah. But still, I was like, not.
You're like, no.
Not Maya.
I don't like being called Georgina.
Oh.
Or even Georgie. I don't like Georgie or Georgie.
Okay, well, I'm glad I just called you Georgia.
George or Georgia.
So now you know, guys. Only call her Georgia if you meet her in person. If you come into the studio.
I'll be so mad.
Straight Georgia.
Straight Georgia. And in Australia, people call me George.
Oh, well, that's too masculine for me to call
well,
you that.
And that was the name of my invisible friend when I was a kid, was George. Yeah.
Invisible friend?
Yes, and just
Do you
quick
remember?
sidetrack.
Yeah, let's. We're
Well, now I realize that my invisible friend, I was probably communicating as a little kid, because my sister would always be mad and be like, why can't I have an imaginary friend? And I'd be like, just imagine one. But I would communicate with George. Yeah, and I now just sidetrack. When I look at all the love and acceptance work we do and how much inner child work we do, I often think maybe my younger self's imaginary friend was me now doing that inner child work and taking care of that younger version of myself, like reparenting. But that's a whole other
that's
thing.
because there's when you do inner child work, which if you work with
So
Georgia,
powerful.
you will do that with a circle inner child work. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
But we won't get into that. This is a special episode, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is going to be about why I decided to make this podcast with Georgia Jean and her channeling other dimensions, the circle of light. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I've gotten a lot of judgment from a lot of people. They think that I'm a little wild, which I understand that it's very taboo.
Yeah.
But let me just roll back on how I got here to understanding this type of information.
Yeah.
So I started reading about near-death experiences. I just was really intrigued. I was raised as a Christian, going to church, but that didn't quite grab me. And I kept questioning, what is this life about? And I came across people who had actually clinically died, and went out of their bodies and then came back into their bodies, been revived, and there's a lot of people having these experiences, and a lot of them have written books because these experiences are so profound. They feel like they have to tell the population, like, hey, like there is more to the story, to what meets our eye, that I just had the most profound experience coming out of my body. I saw everybody who was working on my body, all the doctors, all the nurses. Some of them even have their eyes taped shut while they're on the surgery table. And they can describe everybody that was in the room, everybody, what they were saying. They can even describe who was having conversations in the hallways. And they describe how visceral it was.
So just note to any medical professionals out there there. Don't talk smack when someone crosses.
It's actually a rule now.
Right.
I read somewhere that they actually have a rule that you cannot just be talking candidly on the surgery table.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because people come back. Do you just, not to interrupt, but to interrupt, do you remember specifically any names of particular books that hit you for our viewers out there who might want to deep dive into?
Yeah, and I can link some below, but one of them was called Proof of Heaven, and it was a brain surgeon that wrote the book.
Oh, that's cool.
My dad actually recommended it, and it was a really good read. It was on the shorter side, and he did a really good job writing this book. And he had described that when he had people wake up from his surgeries, they would go, I had this most amazing, profound experience. And he would just shoo them away like it was your imagination, because he was real science, masculine minded.
He was a surgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he never believed these people that were trying to tell these stories when they had woken.
Well, and just to interrupt again, on a previous podcast, I talked about how my dad never told me that he loved me my entire life until basically he went into a coma shortly before he died. And even with my stepmother, who was with him during that period of time, he came back from that coma and was kind of like, why is everybody sad? Don't you know everything's just love? And my dad this is a guy who scoffed, as we would say in Australia, didn't understand my work at all. You know, he was just like, well, as long as he can make some money out of it. So I'm like, Dad, we're saving the planet. He's like, well, how does that pay? You know, he was an atheist. He was, or agnostic. He just, later in life, he got into Buddhism and got more philosophical, which is really beautiful. But he obviously had a moment where he crossed over and came back and basically said, you know, told me that he loved me and kind of imparted this experience, his, you know, like pre-death, afterlife, quick comeback report on it.
So he came out of a coma and then said, I love you, and then went and then died.
Yeah.
So these people, he would just kind of like, oh yeah, you're imagining things. Well, he ended up getting some kind of brain like
aneurysm,
bacteria or something. I read the book a while ago, so I can't remember the exact details on it. But he had like this instant like medical issue. He went to the hospital. He went into a coma. And he had a near-death experience, meaning he like went beyond and had this whole amazing experience.
How awesome. Maybe we can get him on the show. I wonder if he's still alive.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be cool? Do you remember his name?
Alexander something. I'll have to find it.
Okay, and we'll put that out into the universe. If maybe he could, we could dream, believe, manifest him right here in the hot seat. That'd be amazing.
It would be so interesting to hear his story again.
Yeah.
But he said it was more real than this life. And so he had to write this book because he called it Proof of Heaven, because he said there was no way, because I was quite literally brain dead, that I could have imagined this.
Right.
And he had to write the book to tell people about this.
Right.
And there's so many people out there that are trying to go, hey, I did die and come back. There is more to this life.
Yeah, and people are like, it's crazy.
You're just crazy.
You're like delusional. It must have been the morphine.
Yeah, correct. And so I started off my path of reading near-death experiences because I needed to know, not a book that had been written 2,000 years ago and then been translated many times over and over and over again.
Some first-hand accounts.
Yeah, I really wanted to hear first accounts.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had a pretty strong foundation. What I learned from those books is that we are all connected. We are all one. Love is the only thing that exists, or all consciousness. And a lot of people who die, they do a life review. And anyway, so I came across this show, all right, called one day. I was during COVID. I came across this show called Interviews with Extra Dimensionals. Reuben Langdon produced it. It's a great show.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I had COVID and I was clicking and is that Interviews with Extra Dimensionals? Is that Interviews with Aliens? And I'm like, no way. So I clicked on it, and these people are channeling these other dimensions. We're in third dimension here on Earth, and there's multiple dimensions coming from different worlds. Some people, they don't even have physical bodies, or dimensions don't. But they were all saying the exact same thing that I had learned through people who went beyond and come back to write about it. And then they went even deeper and filled even more holes. And my mind was blown. It quite literally pivoted my whole life.
Yeah.
So one of the things was, why it pivoted my whole life, just a side note, was because I was really trying to change the world and wanted to be a humanitarian. And I don't think I was going about it the right way. And they said, listen, the law of attraction is real. And so if it is in your reality, okay, that means you vibrate at some level with it. And so really your reality is a reflection of you inside. And so in order to change your reality, you actually need to go within and do the inner work, and then your outside reality will shift. Because again, if you don't like something out here, it's really something inside.
Somewhere there's a resonance.
There's a resonance with it. And I go, so they said, don't go out and try to change the mirror, or go inside. And that's how you're going to that's how you're going to start healing the planet and having this planet raise up out of this strife and stuff like that. And it made a lot of sense to me. So anyway, I'm cruising through the episodes, and who do I come across? Georgia Jean. Okay, and I have watched these. The information is so dense on all of these episodes that he's interviewing these people. And I have watched every single one of them, I'd say 4 or 5 plus times.
Amazing, yeah.
And I will tell you, Georgia Jean was unlike any other one because she had the highest perspective. The
circle come from a pretty, super high space.
Non-polarity,
no stories.
No stories about, well, the reptilians are going to be here. And it was all about everything is your energy.
Yeah.
Everything is just energy. And you are in a world of polarity, and you can get into your heart center.
And you can how to shift any kind of reality through that broader perspective.
Yeah. And it was all love. And it was like, well, if there's something that scares you, or there's something that's a reflection of something inside, just move that energy. It was a very broad perspective. And then she started talking about like bending the matrix and stuff like that through loving and accepting and being heart-centered. So I was like, wow, this lady is like, oh, I really, really resonate with this information. So I ended up calling her 2.5 years ago. And I said, hey, I saw you on interviews with Extra Dimensionals, and I want to start working with you. So I'm doing this episode because I have to tell you the things that she's done for me that have just blown my mind.
Just so you know, it's like when we talk about these and I just want to say this about our work in particular, because we have worked with so many actual clients on their stories in their life that they're trying to shift, that our information it's not just sort of conceptual. It is really how to work with human consciousness and human reality to drastically shift stuff. It's not just theoretical. It's we're about helping people's lives physically and materially change, not just sort of like interesting spiritual stuff, which of course is cool and people get drawn to that. But the purpose of the work that I do is with them, that we do together, is to physically and materially and viscerally improve people's experience.
Timelines. So the first time I called her, I talked to her about my abundance. We had all these businesses and we just kept falling on our face. And it was like, we should have been like, that should have been our year. And it was like a promising, and then boom, something would always happen. And so the Circle of Light scanned me and they go, well, yeah, you have a program of unworthiness. So like, you're going to basically keep everything at bay. And so she worked with me for the rest of that session. I'm telling you, within a couple of days, my husband called me and was like, oh my God, we just had the best week of our lives. Oh my God, we just had the best week. Oh my God. And it continued. And I'm like, within one session of abundance, I don't know if that's for everybody or not, but like, I was like, holy shit. Like it totally shifted. And I had no idea that I had an unworthiness program running my reality. But that's what's amazing about the Circle. So then I called her about, I had overgrowth of yeast in my gut called Candida. Some people could never get rid of it. Some people have it for the rest of their lives. You have to cut out sugar. You have to be on medications for years. I had been on medication for a year and I was still not getting rid of it. So I called her and I said, hey, like I got this, like, Candida, and I don't know. So again, the Circle of Light in Georgia, they scan me. And by the way, she scans me and she's in another state.
Oh, yeah, I do it over the phone, everything over the phone.
Yeah. And my body will be twitching.
That's right. The break dancers come in.
Yeah.
Beat it, Candida, beat it. No one's going to beat it. Okay, keep going, sorry.
So I called her about my candida. Well, every time I was eating like stuff, I was breaking out all kinds on my face. The first session I stopped breaking out. Took 4 sessions, and it was had to do with a lot of unworthiness and shame. That again, I had no idea that I was running that program. And she got rid of my candida in 4 sessions. I'd been fighting it with medication for a whole year.
And while you're having a look, because chronic physical conditions has been one of our specialties over the years, working with people, cancer, late stage cancer. Yeah, just because it's all about psychological charge in the body, why the body is unable to reorganize itself to work in the way that it should to help and heal and rejuvenate itself. So once you move, and if anyone, I hate to be sales pitching here, but if anyone goes to my website, they can sign up for my email list and they'll get that free ebook, the Authentic Positivity System report. And it talks about the psychological body-mind system and why we contract and create this sort of suppression in the body so it doesn't operate well. So that's really at the heart of a lot of our work with chronic physical conditions. And shame is one of our survival emotions. So we tend to suppress that in the body. Same with like anger, fear, rage. A lot of times that suppressed psychological charge is why a big root cause for chronic physical conditions. So
over the years, she scanned my body. She was able to pick up that I had an iron deficiency. I had a weird rash on my finger for like 8 months. They were able to go, oh, your body's overheating. Drink this and drink that. I'm like, there had been so many physical things. One of the big stories was I had this bladder infection, what I thought was a bladder infection, for 2.5 months. And I did not want to waste a session on my bladder infection with Georgia and the Circle of Light. So I kept trying to take like cranberry pills and all this stuff, and it just wasn't going away. Finally, after 2.5 months, I'm like, okay, I got to like address this in one of these sessions. So they go in and they go into the bladder and they go, well, you don't actually have an infection. It's just irritated. And they went into the emotions that I had in there. And they asked me, like, at what point did you have, and it was some inner child work that I had no idea about, but my body was calling me to focus on this because my kids were fighting constantly.
They were fighting. Her real life kids were fighting constantly.
Yeah.
And you had the bladder infection.
I tapped into my inner child. So my kids were always fighting. And I was just like, I was trying to avoid them all the time because it got worse when I was around, and I felt really guilty because I didn't want to be around them because it was constant conflict. I didn't know how to change it. So 2.5 months, this bladder was like calling for me to focus on it. And I did this inner child work in there. The bladder infection or irritation was gone after that. I walk out and I literally see a shift in my kids immediately. And I'm like, okay, the Circle of Light told me that your children are an extension of your subconscious.
Of course, yeah.
So it continued after that. The kids fighting went down 70 to 80%. I mean, they still fight.
Yeah,
but it's nothing like it used to be.
Yeah.
And my mom came into town like 4 weeks after that. And she told me, I don't know what you're doing. And she told Shane that, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, like, good job. Your kids are so much better. And I go, Mom, it's this energy work that I'm doing. It's shifting my reality without even me realizing it. I mean, this stuff is so powerful.
And I think that inner child work, even for people who do have who become parents, because I've also done a lot of work with people who are trying to get pregnant as well, and they have a lot of unresolved, buried trauma or emotions or memory in the pelvis, the woman. And it's like the new consciousness kids that are trying to come through, they don't want to be birthed into the old frameworks of trauma that we have. So a lot of people who are struggling with infertility, it may be that they need to do that work of healing their own inner child aspects and clearing out the pelvis of all this pent up old emotion, being pissed off in the bladder, anger, shame, rage, all that kind of stuff that is unintegrated. And then that really opens up the pelvis, and then the new consciousness kids can kind of implant in there.
Here's another wild story. Thank you for that. Here's another wild story. So, and this is So I kept seeing the Orion's Belt constellation for 4 years. Every time I looked up into the sky, it was like, boom. And one time I asked, like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, it was like, I would wake up in the middle of the night and it was like, at the time, it was through my window. It would make me wake up to see it. And I started to really feel like you are trying to tell me something. And it started getting worse and worse. After the 4 years, as I'd look up even in my windshield, it'd be shining right at me. So I go to a session with the circle, and sometimes I'll just ask a couple questions before we go into the bigger session that I want. And I go, I just want to ask the question. I feel like the Orion's Belt is trying to like get my attention, and I don't know what's going on with that. And they go, oh, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take the rest of the session for that. And I go, okay. And they said, well, so the Orion's Belt is old consciousness that has been seeded from the original human beings. And they go into this story, right? Like,
I can't actually remember what I channeled for that session because I think it was a deep one. When I have that, so a lot of times we'll channel, people will come in and I'll just channel their kind of galactic stream for them in a like whatever. So I don't remember the specifics of that one.
Don't quote me on exactly, because I don't know the history of all that.
Yeah,
but basically they were saying that you have old consciousness inside of you that needs to be upgraded, and this is what the Orion's Belt is trying to tell you. And I'm like, how would I ever know that? Well, anyway, so they said, do you have liver issues? And I was like, yeah, I went to a holistic doctor and they said that I had underperforming liver. And they go, do you have Scandinavian blood in you? I go, yeah, I have like 2 or 3% Scandinavian. And they go, yeah, that's old consciousness. You need to upgrade your liver. So then they worked on my body for the rest of the time to upgrade the liver. I think they even brought the sun consciousness in to
probably
purify.
Do a bit of delete files.
Guess what? Never saw the Orion's Belt like that. I mean, I'll see it maybe every once in a while.
But not without that same like wanga.
No, I rarely see it now. I was like, dude, this shit you can't make up. I mean,
that's what I remember. Now I remember that. Yeah, that was like this sort of Orion consciousness and the Scandinavian connection. I mean, because we have, especially a lot of people who are watching this are probably already, au fait with the idea of star seeds and whatnot. We have this kind of energetic ethnicity. We're not all just human, and we do. I mean, and even now, I don't know, physicists would say that our cells, the atoms, the molecules, it's all been part of the universe somewhere else. Or, we are biologically and energetically blended consciousness. So that was part of your sort of energetic ethnicity. And we feel drawn to these archetypes or these celestial bodies or whatever that have that frequency of this sort of aspect of source that may need to be integrated in this life.
And I would have, how would I have known what the Orion's Belt was trying to tell me? Thank God I have the circle of light. And then just the other day, I started getting acne again. And I was like, I asked the circle, hey, I'm getting acne on my face now again. Is the candida coming back? And they scan my body, of course. I have like little energetic surgery. And they go, no, you need to purify your kidney and your livers right now because you're upgrading your body with all these solar flares.
Yeah, so many upgrades
resonance,
going on.
high vibration.
Yeah.
So they go, we'll work on that for the rest of the day. My acne was gone after that. I'm like, dude, I literally can't make this up.
You've got the best skin ever. It's just like amazing, super glow.
That's celery juice, I think. I take care of myself.
I love celery juice.
But check this crazy story. I mean, I've been working with her for 2.5 years. I can tell there's a lot of little stuff, but these are like the big things. So I call her. I'm moving down to LA. And I'm like, hey, I don't know if I should like spend like a lot of money and know that once I go down to LA, I know I'm going to make more money, or should I be conservative? Because we had all these houses we were looking at, and a lot of the houses cost big bucks living here. And they go, well, hey, if you're going to first move somewhere, you really need to like plant your roots down. So you want to kind of be in the middle of the two, so you don't feel like you have to move right away. I go, okay. And they go, but you know what? For the rest of the session, I want to work on why you believe that you're in lack, that you can't have the house that you want. Okay. I had all of these houses lined up. This was a Thursday. I was leaving Friday. I already had a real estate agent looking at all the houses for me, lined up all the appointments. Okay. And they go, yeah, let's work on that for the rest of the time. So we did that session. I go home that night. Last time I'm in bed, and I was like, okay, let me just look to see if anything else popped up. One more time. This place popped up. It was the newest out of all the houses we were looking at. It was the nicest out of all the houses we were looking at. It had a 3-car garage, exactly what my husband needed. It had the office. Okay. It was the best for almost the cheapest.
Yeah.
And I was like, how the hell did that just happen? I called check this out. So I called the real estate agent because it was like in the morning at 7 a.m. And I was like, is that a 3-car garage? Because there's one that's tandem, so I couldn't really see. 7 a.m. She's all, hello. I'm like, hi, this is Mia. I'm wondering about this house because I'm leaving that morning to go. And I was like, no fucking way. It was like almost the cheapest. There was one that was a little cheaper. Out of all the houses we were looking at, the nicest, had as many bedrooms as I wanted.
Yeah.
The garage. Yeah. 3-car garage. I mean, it fit all I was like shook, right? So then there was people looking at it before me, and there's people looking at it after me. And guess who they picked? Me, because that house was for me. Because then I talked to Georgia, and I was like, dude, you just fucking manifested this house for me. Like, how the hell?
That's where we're shooting the podcast right now.
Yeah, in the house.
To shoot. Yeah,
because I needed a podcast room.
Yeah.
The circle was like, I got you.
We got you. We like this idea. We like this girl and her ideas about the podcast. We're going to do a little extra real estate assistant help on this one.
So, and then Georgia was like, yeah, they can like pierce the matrix like that.
Well, that's the real bend the matrix work. So when we have limiting beliefs or limiting frameworks, we literally can't perceive things existing for us or being even a potential, and we just don't believe it's possible. And once you dissolve that framework that was keeping that at bay, things will just pop through. They'll pop through the matrix, basically. They'll just appear. Like, I've had that happen a lot, especially with heart centering stuff, like solutions that I would never have thought of. It'll just like pop through after I do the energy work. And especially when it works really well when you have that sort of confusion or indecision and you're not really sure, because that's like an indicator that there's some mind in the way of something else coming through. So if you clear up those belief structures in the mind, then a whole new plethora of potentialities opens up, and you could call that the parallel reality hopping or the getting into your highest timeline or whatever. But it just can pop through basically like that. Yeah, it's so cool.
It's so cool. And I'm moving here in like 2 months, and you best believe I'm going to be having a session, maybe 2. Really anchor in this energy to get the house that I want, the price that I want. I mean, it's mind blowing what the circle of light can do. Yeah. And then I'm going to just end with one more that I just thought was really interesting. Again, I have so many little stories, you guys, that it just blows my mind. If you understand how reality is created, how you are constantly manifesting your own reality, they are going to help you shift this reality, help you live your highest timeline, guide you in all ways, help you. There was a lot of me not feeling good enough, a lot of shame, a lot of stuff. It's like the best therapist you'll ever have, quite literally. Because they go at the root of it. Because it's not avoiding that emotional, like what that charge within, because it's not just about that resistance, that shame. It isn't just like usually when we manifest an issue, and that's another thing about chronic physical conditions, is a lot of the times we ignore things, we brush it under the rug, we ignore our emotions, we ignore our feelings, what we believe, what we want. And it just gets buried. And a lot of the times that's when the chronic physical condition has to come around and really sit somebody's ass down and be like, listen, none of the medication's working. Not even like acupuncture's working. Not even this, that, or the other is working. Because it's time to really go in and do that inner work. And that's when I say, like, it's the inner kids are usually like having a tantrum and acting out when you have that. That's what happened to my stuff neck. Going on. I still have different parts. That's the thing. When you go and do physical stuff, it's like, okay, we'll go into the exact spot. And so like, I have like still some areas over here, but that I went and moved my neck. I couldn't move it all the way. Or if it was this one, I couldn't move it all the way. And I had a session with her, and there was an inner child work that I tapped in right there. And then after the session, my neck was all whoop. Yeah. And I was like immediate. That's what my shoulder looks like? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, this stuff, like I said, I have a million. And she's been working with this regularly. So you've really experienced a big spectrum from that really big kind of galactic, past lifey, like the Orion integration stuff, to physical stuff, to the house manifesting stuff, because we've been doing this for 20 years. We've done so many storylines. And then also just then you wanted to do the podcast, and you were like, I don't know if I can do it. And we worked on her headspace
do it, to believe in being able to do it.
That was the other thing I asked them. Well, I have these 3 avenues I can go down. My true dream is to have a podcast. And they go, well, let me read into your heart. Because you always have to get heart-centered when you start working with them in the beginning of the session.
That's a big part, yeah.
Let me see what your heart wants.
Yeah.
And they said, your heart wants you to start this podcast. I don't know if I would have done that because I didn't know if I knew how to, what to do. Like, I didn't think I was good enough to do it, whatever. There was a lot of things. Yeah. And they guided me. Well, that's really what you want. And that was truly my dream out of all the things. They helped me and guided me into this path. And here we are. It's manifested. Here we are.
It's manifest.
Yeah.
And I'm here too.
I mean, I'm telling you, if one day she's going to be so booked that you're going to be sorry that you didn't call. I'm serious. My friend was like,
get away you can't.
Don't blow her up because literally a couple of my friends were like, well, don't blow her up, dude, because she's not going to be available for you anymore. I'm like, I know. I worried about that.
Don't worry
but
about
I really
that.
want to get her out there because I'm like, this bitch she's game changer. And not just like call her personally. This is about learning about
how to work your own reality, because that's really what we want people to understand, that they have this power. And we, obviously we have the classes and the boot camps and stuff, but it's really about helping these testimonials help, because I can't sit here going the Circle of Light's so great, because it sounds very self-promoting and like it just, and I really appreciate Mia speaking openly about the experiences that she's had, because a lot of clients don't necessarily want to talk about their private thoughts and feelings and emotions and things they've struggled with,
or talk about that they beat up with a 12th dimensional
or talk out with that sort of stuff.
No, really. I mean,
it's definitely out there.
People are not into it. People think it's crazy.
People think it's crazy, and
devil.
even with even if they see the results, they'll find other ways to rationalize, why it worked or whatever. And that's just how it is. But you can go to my website. All my testimonials are 100% genuine. I'm definitely not
tons of testimonials.
Yeah, and but I appreciate you speaking about it, because it's not like just about me making business. It's about getting people to understand that you have this power. And I give away that Path to Mastery gift bag. Pay what you can. A lot of the initial and super powerful core tools we use are in that Path to Mastery gift bag. Like, I'm here to make it available for people, because this is how we shift the collective reality by everybody, getting into the hearts and getting into this power. And,
yeah, I mean, one of the episodes on interviews with Extra Dimensional is not the one with you, but I don't know who was channeling what star system, but they said, we have been where you are on your planet, and the way we ascended out of that was we had to go within and do the inner work.
Got to do it.
And that's exactly what me and Georgia do together. It's like, you have so much shit built up from generations, from childhood.
And just the human collective history.
Collective trauma.
Even if you come from like a lovely family, because some people come from, they're like, I don't really remember being traumatized or whatever. Just the human collective has, going back to that tiny little bit of Scandinavian history, genetic history she had, was having an influence on her beingness now. And that really speaks to that deep generational, genetic, energetic, ancestral
cellular memory
work that we're doing as well as like the galactic stuff too. So it's all very, it's all that we work all levels, from a simple belief structure that I'm not good enough, to that ancestral energy, to the planetary templates, to the birth wound, to the galactic wounds. Everything we cover it all, basically. Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap this up with one little cute story. So I called the circle, and I always have questions in the beginning of the session, and I was like, my daughter really doesn't want me to die before her.
Little Nevaeh.
And I promised her that I'd live to 120 because I'm really healthy.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, can I really do that? Can I live to 120 and we can die together? And they said, Mia, by the time that happens in 70 years, 120, 130, 150, I go, no, really? They go, oh, they said, absolutely. And they said that, but by that time, the veil will be so thin that you still might want to come and transition out of your body, and you will still be able to hang out with your daughter in the physical when you don't have a body. The world is going to look very different
way we
by that
interact,
time
yeah,
in 50
yeah.
years or whatever, 20 years. So then, okay, I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy. 120, 130, 150, or I'm just hanging out with my daughter ghost style. She's gonna be all freaked out.
Yo,
Like, Mom,
ghost
dude, I'm
gang."
changing. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Just walking through the
She's
doors.
still being a ghost and still bringing cute outfits. Like,
She's
"Try
still
this
yelling
on."
at me as a ghost.
Yeah. Mind you, she's also like 120 now. She's like, Mom, I can dress myself. I'm 120, Mom.
So check this out. I'm scrolling on Instagram like a week later, maybe even a couple of days. I can't remember. And I come across this post that says scientists have now found some way to make humans live to 120, 130, 150. Bro, the exact numbers that the circle of light used. And it talked about the science behind how they're like having breakthroughs to have people live. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck? I was like shook beyond.
And all that biohacking is the reflection of this energetic consciousness shift going on. Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, I'm trying to do this podcast because the circle of light and Georgia are so powerful. And if you are interested in changing your life, but also helping assist changing the world and helping the collective,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
This is big stuff. It's major energy. And I just want to tell you that, like, working with Georgia and the circle of light is major. This isn't just like a Reiki healing session, and it's not violent by any means, but you have to go in deep and do that healing.
Yeah. And the amount of energy that runs in a single session now compared to probably when I started, just because I've had my own consciousness cracked, and the collective consciousness is at those sort of ceilings of how much frequency can even come in and do this work. Because initially I feel like we really had to work very specifically with a lot more stuff. Now, because we've actually hit a lot of tipping points, and people who have been doing the work and who are already pretty conscious in a lot of ways and have done maybe they've done the ancestral healing somewhere else, or they've done they kind of understand a lot of that. They'll come to the circle, and the circle just straight up come in and delete files now. They're basically like, you're already conscious. You've done a lot of the work. You're already ready for this upgrade right now. And as I'm sitting there channeling, it's literally like, I mean, think of like like an old, I don't know, Xerox where the line's going, zit, 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 and I can see it just kind of going through and just deleting files. It's wild,
Yeah, that was the first time I started having that shaky thing. It was like the fourth session with you, and they said, I want you to light up in your brain everything that you don't like in your quantum field or on the big screen or all this stuff. And they had me light up all these bad thoughts, and they just started deleting files, bro, in my brain.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're working with right now. And
Sounds
then
super nutty.
You think like, I mean, who knows if this is real or not? She's in Chicago probably, and I'm in California, and I'm laying down on the phone. And it's like this. I'm like, what the fuck?
Delete it.
I'm like, oh my God, like, this isn't a joke. Like, she is doing something to my body in the quantum field. I mean,
it's the quantum field. Yeah.
It's amazing.
That energy, it's the 9th and 12th dimensional energy that comes in. And I know we've got to wrap this one up soon, but that one is that consciousness is so far away from being in the physical body. It really is like if a scientist was watching a rat in a maze, they can just see it's that wall. Like, the mouse is not getting to the cheese because it's that wall. The rat's like, my boyfriend, my house, they're like, delete it, and they're like, the cheese. So they're so far out,
powerful.
So far out of the storyline, so far out of anything that would be like part of the egoic framework. It's very simple.
So we're going to go ahead and take your manifesting to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Bringing in the heart center, bringing in the love and acceptance, creating the actual dream life, authentically positive. You can manifest if you don't really believe it. It's not going to manifest the way you want. You're going to continue manifesting from your core vibration, which is the shame, the abandonment, the unworthiness. Okay, don't even fucking waste your time after a while. Do the inner work.
Do the inner work.
Come to people like her.
And everything that we've talked about, the circle of light, the 9th and 12th dimensional energies, it's all out there in consciousness, right? So the other thing that's also important for us to share is that, I'm not the only gateway. You have access to this. Even as you're watching these episodes, you're starting to receive those downloads. If you're like, all right, well, give me some of that delete file stuff. while you're sleeping with your free will choice. You can even write it down before you go to bed, like, hey, tonight while I sleep, I want to have the files deleted by the 9th to 12th dimensional energies that lady was talking about. and you'll start to receive some of the stuff. It's just that when you come to someone like us and you have that experience really directly in a conscious way, it's a pretty powerful feeling, all the energies. It certainly helps you believe that this stuff is real. Like, I worked on something and, you know, two weeks later or a month later, my life was measurably changed in that way.
And not just me.
And that's what I appreciate.
I know that have called her have had measurable
actual things, not just feeling better, but actual
reality shifting in
reality
the quantum
shifting.
field.
Yeah, because that's how specialidade.
Yeah, so this is like, we got a diamond in the rough here. I mean, I found her on a TV show. She's not really, but I'm like, we're going to do this. So you guys, if you don't forget to subscribe, because every episode that you hear with the Circle of Light, which she's going to channel probably the one before and the one after this that you listen to, you are going to get energy attunements on every single
one. Even if it's me talking, they're with us, they're listening. If I'm channeling, they're definitely, you might feel it stronger, but and as I've said before, your questions as you're hearing that, how does that happen, is also being responded to by source consciousness. So it's a real, it's a multi-dimensional paradigm shifting party.
Here for it.
Here for it.
All right. Well, we love you guys. I hope that inspired you to start working on yourself, changing the world, changing our reflection, changing our mirror.
Yep. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, write down. I see other people doing this thing, so I'll get into it. Like, make your intention more manifest. What do you want to shift in your reality right now? Write it down in the comments, peeps.
Yeah.
And call forth the power.
Yeah.
And we check the comments and stuff. If there is a show that you really want to understand more about, I like that we were able to cover like a little variety of the different things we do. Write it in the comments, because we're watching, and then we'll make a show about it. Or if you have specific questions, I got 20 years of
lots and lots
have happened in 20 years. Yeah.
And if you want to come on the show and interview the Circle yourself, click the link below. Or go into spreadyourthirdeye.com and click the application form. And maybe we'll just see you in the studio next, hanging out with us. Spread your third eye.
Yay.
We love you all.
Love you. Boom.